Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel. Thank you for tuning in. It's excellent to have you here as always. And today we're doing the 5 dumb things that pro-gun people say about the NFA process or obtaining NFA items. You get the idea. I've been wanting to do this video for a long period of time, but it always seems as though I get sidetracked and forget to do it. Well, the most recent impetus for this is that I did a video on Form 4 wait times being at an all-time low, and the comment section was just one thing after another, and I'm reading that and I'm like, dude, you got to go make that video. You've been putting it off for years. Go make that video. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. And if this video is popular, then we will do the low-hanging fruit of the dumb things that anti-gun people say. So make this video popular and we'll have a leftist kicking section. Number 1. Every 5 years or so, there seems to be a surge, and it seems as though suppressors are going to be deregulated. They're on the precipice of being released from the clutches of the draconian National Firearms Act and Gun Control Act. There's a lot of chest beating, a lot of high-profile things are said, and ultimately those initiatives fall apart, and it's business as usual. In every single comment section of every piece of content that I have ever made about suppressors, there's always been at least one person that has come in and said, well, once these things are deregulated, they'll be so much less expensive than they currently are, and you all are stupid for buying them at those inflated prices, and base. Nah. I mean, if you take into account the $200 tax stamp, then yes, that would be statistically significantly less expensive if you are not counting for the extra $200 of unconstitutional syntax that you have to pay, obviously. But as far as the individual items are concerned, the current sale rates of suppressors support the market as it is, and they're only inflated 10 to 15 to, at the most expensive estimates, 20% inflated on the cost of the devices if you look at the quality of manufacturing that's being put out today. Now, obviously, there are very cost-effective cans that are done much more cheaply than some of the really sophisticated devices, but you're not going to have a $700 suppressor today deregulated tomorrow suddenly be a $200 suppressor. That's not going to happen. Realistically speaking, that can might drop to $500-ish over the course of 5 or 10 years. And once suppressors are deregulated, you're not waiting 5 or 10 years to purchase that device. I guarantee you are not waiting that amount of time. You are told that suddenly, well, actually, I take that back. You might have to wait that long because the stock may not be there, and in which case, that's actually going to cause the prices of the items to climb initially. So the idea that they're going to get deregulated and suddenly they're just going to be freely available and cheap and, you know, all that sort of stuff. No. And I would also add that if you said in 2000 that, oh, well, they're going to be deregulated soon, so, you know, I'm just going to wait. Well, you've been going without the suppressor for 24 years, for a quarter of a century, because of this particular excuse that is a complete and utter fabrication by people that, in my estimation, don't have a solid understanding of how economics, supply and demand, you know, market trends and all that sort of stuff actually works. Speaking of money and things like that, it's time to hear a word from today's sponsor. I started using XS back in my early 20s, you know, like when I could actually see. I used them for the first time in a force-on-force class, and up to that point, to be completely honest, I really didn't get it. From that experience, I can definitively tell you that XS's Big Dot sight is the best sight for when you're shooting like this. Of course, they make regular sight profiles too, but the consistent attributes are a bright tritium dial surrounded by a photoluminescent insert that charges up with exposure to any light source. They also do everything from shotgun beads to AK post sights, ensuring that XS has a solution when you need the brightest sights in any light. Easter sale. Number 2, once you have that tax stamp and you got that item, the ATF can come to your house whenever they want, gain entry to your home, and take a gander at those items. No, they really can't do that. You have a Fourth Amendment right to illegal search and seizure. And because you have participated in a tax scheme with the government, does not give them a right to enter your home any more than the tax situation that you currently engage in on a regular basis every single time they steal money out of your paycheck. A tax stamp is a tax return. It is a confidential document with the caveat that if you are stopped out in public and they suspect that that device might not be a registered item, that you have to produce the paperwork for it. Now, as a reference point for this, I have a video from the armed attorneys that I'm going to have linked as a reference piece of content for you guys to go check out. You should watch that video because it details all the scenarios in which you have to produce that documentation. The only person that you have to show a copy of your tax stamp to is an ATF agent that finds you with your device somewhere and says, hey, you got a tax stamp for that? Every other person, whether they are law enforcement of any persuasion, if they're legal in your state to possess a suppressor and own a suppressor, you do not have to show them that document. Now, as a caveat to that, taking that hard stance carries its own set of consequences that you may or may not want to participate in, depending on how busy you are that day. They are not going to come to your house and look for these items. I have an FFL and have my own personal suppressors. They're already here and they don't care to see them. To be clear, I'm not going to bat for the ATF here. I'm just saying they simply don't have the manpower to do that. There are millions of these devices, in many instances distributed ones and twosies across the United States, across 42 states. Number 3, the reason wait times are at an all-time low is that they're trying to increase the amount of people that are on the registry so that they can then change the rule and create a whole bunch of felons. Well, the thing about that is that would require an act of Congress. So they would have to actually pass a law that invalidated the NFA, which currently, this is kind of a positive and a negative in that that is unlikely to happen. I'm just going to throw that out there because there are so many facets of current firearms law, current firearms legislation that plug into the National Firearms Act that mucking around with the framework that a whole bunch of other stuff is built on is a trying process. It would, in order for them to do that, it again would take a bill passage. So both houses of government, House of Representatives and the Senate would have to pass it. And the president would have to sign it. Given the current makeup, I don't think that is likely to happen. Well, Kurt, they change the rules all the time. So what rule, let's use our critical thinking skills here. What rule would they change that would suddenly turn you into a felon for participating in the 100-year-old process of obtaining a suppressor? I'll wait. No, they do not want more people to own suppressors. They do not want more people on the registry. They want fewer people on the registry because the more people that register suppressors, the more the march towards common use is solidified. And when that thing becomes common use, when somebody finally takes a court case all the way up and they argue common use in front of the Supreme Court, that is when the whole thing will get gutted, and they're quaking in their boots over that. They've had to do more with less funding, which means fewer people. And because of that, they've had to integrate technologies like eForms. eForms was originally just for the FFLs to be able to move data around quickly. Now it's open to the public, and it is really easy to use, even though the website is absolutely horrible, and looks like it was built off of $1 billion, and most of it was laundered. and it was built by somebody's dumb cousin in their garage somewhere. Has to go down for maintenance weekly to move kilobytes of data around. Your tax dollars at work, people. Speaking of tax dollars at work, number 4, the whole thing is a scheme to generate more funding for the ATF since they consistently get their budget marched back every time there's political turmoil. No. Tax stamps go into the general fund, the same place where you send your tax dollars if you actually pay your taxes instead of having them stolen from your paycheck every 2 weeks or every month or whenever it is that you get paid. My phone, not yours. And then number 5, you got to have an NFA trust because after you die, they're going to come and take those items from your next of kin. No, that is entirely inaccurate. There is a tax-exempt transfer form known as the Form 5, and it is specifically for this particular instance, for people who want the items after the previous owner has passed away and they have a right of inheritance for those pieces of property. As with any other piece of property, you simply fill out the Form 5 and fire it off. The NFA Trust just simply makes that process more defined should anything end up in probate. So there is a big hullabaloo about these trusts because I have been somewhat negative about trusts. There are very legitimate reasons why you would want to use a trust. I have a video on this specifically. It is like a 15 to 20 minute video on the reasons why you might want to use an NFA trust, or maybe you should just use the individual transfer process. All indications currently are that the really fast NFA wait times are on individuals. There are some established trust applications like the Silencer Shop thing. I cannot confirm this at this point in time. I'm not affiliated with Silencer Shop in any way, shape, manner, or form. Again, there are legitimate reasons you would use an NFA trust. However, that is not one of them. Unless you're talking about something that is really expensive that you want to protect from a probate court, like, a several $100,000 transferable machine gun or something like that. Yeah, that is a major investment property that you should definitely consider putting into an NFA trust to protect it from a probate court. Your bullcrap used, $500 cans and your home-built janky SBRs that are probably built on poverty ponies. No. Okay. Bro, you are dead. You don't care who has your stuff at that point in time. And if they want it, they can fill out a Form 5 and get it for themselves. Stop worrying about that crap. Okay. Anyway, I'll have those videos and the other videos that I have mentioned previously linked for your reference. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and send this video out to all the people who need to see it. I had a great time making it, and I'm going to bed.